Hello everyone, Dan here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review for Thanos #2. This is a book from Marvel Comics. Let's take a look at the creative team before we get into this book. This book is written by Christopher Canwell with art by Luca Pizzari, Ruth Redmond in colors, letters by Corey Petit. This is part 2 of this new Thanos miniseries, The Return of the Mad Titan. So this is not a book that came out the week of recording this video, but as I have mentioned in other reviews, um, for Marvel books that I'm really invested in, I'll just do reviews whenever I get a chance to catch up on the reading. So even though you may not get them the week of release, hopefully there's still enough people reading these books and wanting to talk about them, because I know I definitely want to talk about them. So I definitely want to keep talking about Thanos, especially after looking at that cover where we know that he's going to clash against the Hulk. I mean, come on. But let me give you a quick synopsis so you can catch up. In this issue, the Illuminati's secret weapon, Hulk. The new Illuminati move onto Thanos to prevent him from destroying the Earth as part of his quest to reclaim his beloved, which means it's time to bring in the biggest gun they have. So, very interestingly, we were reintroduced to a new Illuminati group last issue. Now, I did reach out on social media to Christopher Canwell. He mentioned that this Illuminati is a group that he put together himself for this book. This is not a group that because I hadn't seen the Illuminati in a little while. But of course, whenever you have a threat on the level of Thanos, who else can you bring in? Um, I really enjoyed this second issue. I think the anticipation of having the Hulk show up really helps you build the tension. Of course, we have the town of Fresno just kind of being lifted on the earth, very reminiscent of how the Sokovia was lifted by Ultron in that movie. But we know that this can only end badly if the Illuminati don't get to work really fast. One thing that I find very interesting in this book is the dynamic between the Illuminati, because I feel like everyone in the group is at a very different place, right? Emma and Tony Stark are kind of dealing with the fall of Krakoa. We now have Blue Marvel as part of the team. Stephen Strange has died and come back ever since. And of course, Reed Richards is kind of off doing his other thing. So the fact that they all left whatever they were doing to kind of meet here, and the fact that they are willing to call the Hulk, like, it really raises the stakes. One thing I really enjoyed about this issue was, like I mentioned, as things are happening in the city, and Thanos is kind of looking for Roberta. I believe her name is Roberta, who we have a big reveal of who she really is at the end of the book. Um, we see steps of the Hulk in different states, the ones they've called them. You'll see a little panel on his foot, and we'll see that when we get through the preview art. But just that pacing of, like, here comes the Hulk, and then to kind of blow it off and be like, all right, here we go. Like, the Hulk is here, things are about to happen. So let's take a look at some of the preview art. As you can see, very these pages are very full of things happening, which I think allows you to kind of dive deep into the chaos that's going on here. Thanos from his throne, just like destroying everything, looking for Roberta and the Illuminati. The Illuminati, meanwhile, have to plan. I love kind of how they bicker a little bit because they're not used to working together. Um, I also really like that Iron Man's dialogue is now green with the inverted black bubble. It definitely feels very machine like, very computer like from the 90s. If you Windows 95, if you've been reading that. So hopefully that's kind of what the letter was going for. Corey Petit's very talented, so I would not put it past him. So, and then of course we also get to see the things, the magnitude of this event. It's still on a cosmic level, right? Blue Marvel has to go out and fight with the ship, and then we finally have. So if you look at this middle page here, you just see the Hulk's foot and then Colorado. You see that throughout the issue in different states, which I think is just a fun way to be like, it's kind of like a countdown clock. And then here the Hulk finally shows up. Now, I am not caught up on the Hulk fully, so I don't know how his powers have changed or if the character himself has changed. I know he's kind of fighting monsters at the moment. So I definitely want to go back and catch up on that. But so far in this one, he pretty much seems very straightforward Hulk. we're gonna punch the shit out of each other, him and Thanos. But things always don't, they don't go according to plan unless your plan is Thanos's plan. So I quite. Hello everyone, Daniel here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review for Punisher number 2. This is a book from Marvel Comics. Let's talk about the creative team before we get into this book. This book is written by David Pepose with art by Dave Watcher, colors by Dan Brown, letters by Corey Petit, and a main cover by Rod Reese. You'll also see some other covers at the end of the video. Stay tuned for that. So this is not a new book from this week as the recording of this video, but what I'm doing now with some of these Marvel review is I'm picking up some series that I'm reading on an ongoing basis and just kind of trying to get caught up. So in the meanwhile, I'll be doing reviews for those issues. So even though this didn't come out this week, I still want to talk about it. Let's talk about the synopsis for this specific issue. No one escapes the Punisher. Deep in the heart of New York City, the crime lord known as the Offer trades in every currency on the planet. Barricaded within his fortified tower, he is defended by an army of guards in the latest cutting-edge security team of the Stone Cold supervillains capable of slaughtering a battalion. With the limitless resources at his disposal, the Offer thinks he's untouchable. He's about to learn that no one escapes the Punisher. This was a very cool issue for a few different things. Obviously, we continue to figure out more about this new Punisher. Who is he? What are his motivations? What is he after the events of the first issue where he just kind of kicked a lot of ass? We're introduced or reintroduced to this character. So I wasn't familiar with the Offer and actually a lot of the characters that you'll see in this issue, but I looked it up. It is an existing character. So I love how David Pepose is just kind of reaching deep into the Marvel lore to bring back maybe new enemies, new to give this new Punisher new people to confront. Obviously, the Punisher usually finishes off his opponents. I'll say it like that. So maybe it's hard to have somebody that's kind of recurring, but uh, overall, this was action packed. We also know that the police are still on the tail of like the Punisher, trying to figure out what's going on. Who is this new guy kind of bringing chaos back to their city? So we get a little bit of that. I feel like that's a very small seed that Pepose is planting there. Now let's talk about the art because Dave Watcher is amazing. Like it's so his art style becomes so gritty. I love the little details, specifically when it comes to some of the shading. I think that's very cool. It adds a whole other layer of like down to earth street level. That's kind of what we want to see in a Punisher series. And the Punisher has been through some fantastic artists in prior years. So this is really cool to see just a Watcher taking it and running with it with a new tone, with a new character, but still the same feel that we want to see. As I mentioned, things get super violent because that's what a Punisher book does. I think Pepose and Watcher just very smartly bring in fun ways to not only show us how capable Joe is, but also to put him up against some very interesting villains. Now, I had also not heard of the Night Shift very recently, but you get you get enough backstory in each one of these characters to figure out who they are, what they do, and how the Punisher is going to have to take them down. So the fact that this Offer individual has all these resources, it's very reminiscent of the Kingpin. Obviously, he's not on that same level, but I feel the way that David Pepose gives you his backstory, even it's almost like even hell couldn't keep him or whatever. Like he negotiated his way out of hell, and then of course, just a fantastic ending to this issue, where we know that the Punisher doesn't compromise, right? So, yeah, very interesting stuff. Really, really enjoyed this issue. I'm very excited for this future of the series, the future of this character. And of course, remember we have a couple of videos with David Pepose where he stopped by the channel. So I'll link those in the description of this video if you want to go check those out. We go deep into everything that he's writing. including The Devil That Wears My Face. That's a book, but Mad Cave Comics, or Mad Cave Studios. So make sure to go check that out as well if you want to read more of David's books. Hello everyone, Dan here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a preview for Avengers Twilight #1. This is a new book from Marvel Comics. Let's take a look at the creative team before we get into this book. Book 1 is written by Chip Zdarsky with art by Daniel Acuna, letters by Corey Petit. A plethora of variant covers. You'll see some at the end of the video. Stay tuned for that. So, this series was announced, I believe it was during New York Comic Con, where we were looking ahead at Marvel's projects. One of the reasons that I'm very excited for this is that this is a Chip Zdarsky book. I love what Zdarsky did with Daredevil. I love everything that he's doing with Batman. He's currently one of my favorite writers. Daniel Acuna is a fantastic artist as well. Just from the preview that we've seen, he's really delivering, especially making it feel like this is really a futuristic tale. So let's read a little bit of the synopsis. In a gleaming new world of prosperity, Captain America is no more, but Steve Rogers still exists, floating through an America where freedom is an illusion, where the Avengers are strangers and his friends are long dead. But is the dream dead? How do you assemble Avengers in a world that doesn't want them? Plus a behind-the-scenes look at making of this issue. So I don't have any preview art for the behind-the-scenes stuff, but we do have a little bit of preview art for a couple of pages, so you can kind of see where Acuna and Zdarsky are taking this story. And just very quickly, one of the things that I noticed is that they're just doing a really good job exploring this world, showing how Steve has aged. He needs glasses now. He has prescription. Just all these little details that are very subtle storytelling. We know that at some point he either ran for a senator or was a senator. And just all that stuff. Very much like kind of like a grouchy old man now. We don't know really, but definitely keeping in theme with the whole man out of time. That goes with Steve Rogers, but also I just love how colorful the world is in here. Kind of why I grouped these pages together for the preview. So Acuna is very good at doing that. A very futuristic looking world, but it could all be a facade, right? As we read in the synopsis, all of this may just be surface level stuff that doesn't really portray the freedom that these characters have in this future. So hello everyone, Daniel here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a preview for Cable #1. This is a new book from Marvel Comics. Let's take a look at the creative team before we get into this book. This book is written by Fabian Nicieza with art by Scott Eaton, Cam Smith with Victor Nava on inks, and colors by Java Tartaglia, letters by Joe Sabino. This is a very interesting launch for a series because the Fall of X is here, and we are ending everything that's happening with this universe. Now, as you can see, also, let me pull the pages back up. This will feature old Cable and young Cable. I guess Nate Summers and Nathan Summers. They are different characters, kind of. It's very convoluted. But let's read the synopsis before we get into this book. The future must not come to pass. All the signs are here. The neocracy is coming. And with it not only comes the end of mutant kind, but all of humankind as well. As if rescuing young Nate from the ongoing threat of work is weren't enough, can Cable root out this growing threat and decimate it before the neocracy has a chance to take hold. But is he already too late to change the future? Don't miss out on Fabian Nicieza and Scott Eaton's explosive first issue of Cable. Like I said, very interesting to launch a book like this when this era of the X-Men is wrapping up. But then again, we have a 10-part Wolverine event also So Marvel is definitely having their cake and eating it. Uh, I like Fabian Nicieza. I think he's been writing for such a long time that there are few people that know these characters as well as he does. And Scott Eaton's art is just always out of the world, out of this park. So let's take a look at some of that art now. And as you can see here, you got Cable, you got big guns. Like, what else do you want? You got him kicking ass. Yeah, I mean, this is what you want in a Cable book. If you're not gonna get too deep into it, and here we see Nate that has been captured, and Cable's trying to rescue him now. So, what's gonna happen from here? I'm very excited to finally get to read this issue. So, I definitely wanted to put out this preview to make sure that people are aware that this is coming out. So. Hello everyone, Daniel here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a preview for Jackpot #1. This is a new book from Marvel Comics. Let's take a look at the creative team before we get into this book. This book is written by Celeste Bronfman, with art by Joey Vasquez, with Eric Gabster, Edgar Delgado, and Eric Arcianaga on colors. Letters by Ariana Maher. This is a gang war tie-in, because of course it is. Every book that's a Spider-Man related book pretty much is doing gang war stuff at this time. So in this book, always bet on red and pick Mary Jane's first solo series since her superhero debut as Jackpot. New York City is in chaos, and the superpower criminal gangs are at war, and it's all hands on deck. It's baptism by fire, but come on, this is Mary Jane. What can she handle? This is really interesting because, as the preview mentions, there's a lot happening in New York at this time. So we will have to see how Mary Jane deals with it. We know that her powers are a little bit erratic and definitely based on luck from what we saw in the series with Black Cat. She doesn't fully control it, but she's definitely getting a lot better at that. So let's take a look at some of the preview art. Here we are, and we see it starts very much right into the deep end, fighting Electro. So that's going to be really interesting. We also get to see a little bit more of Mary Jane in her relationship. Now, I haven't read much of the Spider-Man stuff. I don't know this guy. I know people don't like him. I can see kind of why. Just the character design definitely doesn't leave a lot to be desired. But it's interesting. I think it's interesting to see. You know, I'm not one of those people that just wants Mary Jane to be with Peter. I do prefer it that way, but as long as it's a well written story, I'll definitely check it out. So, and although I'm not familiar with the writer on this series, just from what I've seen in the previews, I'm very excited to read the issue. So. Hello everyone, Daniel here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a preview for the Invincible Iron Man #14. This is a new book from Marvel Comics. Let's take a look at the creative team before we get into this book. This book is written by Gary Duggan, with art by Andrea DeVito as a guest artist, Brian Valencia on colors, letters by Joe Caramagna. This series has been following Iron Man with trying to get help from Riri, and now Forge, in a very interesting story. Gary Duggan, one of my current favorite writers, he has 2 books out this week. We have the X-Men and the Invincible Iron Man. So all that stuff is very much tied together. So in this issue, Tony Stark needs more than just an armor to defeat Orcus. He needs an army. Can Ironheart build one in time? And who will answer the call? So there was a really interesting revelation at the end of the last issue. I won't go too deep into it because I think I want you guys to be surprised. But the fact that Riri's been running around with the 10 rings has been something that was very unexpected to me, but it's really added a level of tension and of interest for me in this series. Let's take a look at some of the preview art. Andrea DeVito, fantastic artist. I just really, really enjoy the art that we are seeing here in the preview pages. Tony is having a nightmare, and this is a nightmare I already know because I looked at the next pages. And also Magneto's dead, so like we know that this has to be some shenanigans going on here. But I appreciate that we are exploring some of Tony's fears. I think this whole series has been about kind of reconstructing and deconstructing Tony. Of course, we have the relationship with Emma Frost and everything that's going on, while in the background, all the issues that are going on with Orchis. So I'm pretty excited to read this issue. I've been enjoying this series very much. It's been Iron Man series since Christopher Cowell took over a few years ago. Have been on my pull list like consistently. So this one also continues to be something that I look forward to every week that it's going to come out. So hello everyone, Dan here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a preview for X-Men number 30. This is a new book from Marvel Comics, written by Gary Duggan with art by Phil Noto and letters by Clayton Cowles. And anytime you have those two creators teaming up in a book, I will pick it up. They are two of my favorites. Gary Duggan has 2 books out this week and has been doing some amazing work leading the well, at least one side of the X-Men line. And of course, you guys know I'm a big Phil Noto fan, longtime Phil Noto fan. So in this issue, we are not animals, as the chaos of mutant kinds fight back against their fall apart at the hands of Orchis rages in the fall of the House of X. Other forgotten foes come from the woodwork to take on the X-Men at their time in peril. In this issue, we see Synch and Talon as they find themselves one more time besieged by the High Evolutionary and his creations to reap the consequences of their last encounter. I'm excited because I think we're going to learn more about what happened in the vault with Talon and Synch. Of course, Talon is the older version of Laura Kinney. There are 2 Laura Kinneys running around. It's a whole very convoluted story. Go check out the rest of the X-Men run to understand what's going on there. But let's take a look at some of the preview art. Big fan of Phil Noto. I like when they do stuff like this card where it's all very much it's very abstract what they're trying to do, but of course it all really works. Especially if you've been reading the story, you know how connected Synch and Talon have become, and they will continue to be this way. We get to see the relationship. I love the pacing in these 4 panels as they kind of develop that story. We know that they spent a lot of time together, and yeah, Phil Noto just I don't know what Spider-Man's doing here, but I'm always glad to see Spider-Man. I don't know what the High Evolutionary is doing here. I'm definitely not always glad to see him. So this is going to be very interesting. I can't wait to read this book. I'm very excited actually for this one because as the X-Men stories are coming to an end, we know that the big stuff is happening in the fall of the House of X and Rise of the Powers of 10, but these series are still going on. So like we have to get some good stuff out of that. So very excited to follow that up. A really cool variants at the end of the video. Stay tuned for those. So if you have read this book, let me know what you thought about it down in the comments. As always, thank you for watching, everyone. Remember to share, like, subscribe, hit the bell so you know when we go live. That is most Saturdays, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. Stay tuned. We have more comic reviews, trailer reactions, TV recaps, all that fun stuff here in the channel. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye-bye.